Okay, I'm not gonna, you can't see me much during this, but I'm gonna kind of show you how everything works. This other one at the other end is fairly simple. It's a table piece that I have, and this kind of came with a saw, and I kind of revamped part of it so that I can just slide it off and on real easy. It slides down at this end in the track. It's very very good as far as holding things up. I'll take a straight edge of some sort and get it up against it, and I just tighten the nut underneath. And then what I do is pull out one of the holders, lift it up, and make sure it's about the right height, and that supports it. So that's that side. The most important side is this side, of course, and what I do is I have a part that I made. This is probably only about 24 inches long, but you can see where the T-slot goes farther. And what I do is I lay it on here. I have a underneath a T-slot. I'll show you what those other ones, you might look at those. These other sliders are under here for something else later. But I run this through two T-nuts, I guess you call those. Get it down here close. Come up here with a straight edge, and then what I do is I hope you can see this, is I clamp the straight edge to the saw's fence, which is 90 degrees to the blade. Kind of pull it up nice and snug. Tighten it. Tighten this one. Make sure it's even with that. Okay, then I can take that off. So now the table's on there, and you'll see I have all these stops. Well, believe it or not, I use these all the time because I might be cutting maybe some rails and stiles and things like that where I've got 2 or 3 different sizes. Pardon me ahead of time. I'm going to sneeze pretty soon. Excuse me. God. Anyway, the other thing I can do with this is I can pull out the stand that's down here that's normally for longer boards, and well, let me show you some other things first. Number one, it's got this measuring on here, but I can double check it. I made this little jig just out of scrap. And this fits in the zero clearance area, and then this lays against the fence, so it's 45 or 90 degrees to that. So I put this in here, sits in there. What's good about it is this is exactly from the blade where the blade would cut 12 inches long. So at 12 inches long, I take my knob here and tighten it up, and if it goes down, fine. If it doesn't, I can move this tape. It's sitting on a Rockler makes a plastic part that fits in a T-slot, and you can tap it back and forth, and so I know that this is exact, and I can check it all the time with this jig. Then for cuts that are a little more difficult, where they're very small pieces, well, you know how dangerous that can be on a chop saw, especially when you've got this angle so that the chop saw can lay down. And that's one thing I hadn't talked about. I was going to put a hole on the back so that I can actually compound this, but most of the time, if I'm going to use it to compound, I've got it outside and I don't have this on, and I'm cutting a whole bunch of molding for the most part. Well, I hardly ever do that, so I thought, well, I'll wait. When I'm going to do it, I'll just do it. It's only 1/8 inch material, and so I can get at it, and then I can put a little cover on it. But I've never had to do it. So anyway, so for small pieces, because of this area and not having a block fly away from you and so on, you want zero clearance on the fence. So here's what I do for that. This is one side, and not a lot to it, just a bunch of scrap material. One of the things I can do is I can also make a stop or two for these short pieces that I might be cutting. If I'm only doing one piece, then I probably will use my bandsaw and then use a sander to get it 90 or a hand plane. But anyway, what I do with this is I slide it, the T. Okay, something was hitting. But anyway, I get it, put the blade down, get it even with the blade so it's not going to cut it, tighten it down. Like I said, I can set the block if I want. And then I have another block that screws into the hole on the other side. And that way I have a zero clearance on the fence. So I can cut some pretty small pieces and they're not going anywhere. So that's a very handy jig that, that I use. I have to figure out what that was. Then the other thing I do, if I have a bunch of longer pieces, which this happens a lot, but remember this is a small shop, so one of the problems with a small shop is if I have a longer piece out here all the time, then I have a hard time getting in between, and I'm going back to the cupboards to get all my sanding stuff back there and so on, and getting at my drill press and so on. So I only use this when I need it. What these do is they slide, and I tighten these back up. Now this one is a little harder to get in, mostly because its tolerance is really good. I mean, once it's together, it's pretty exact. So you're going to see me fudge around a little bit with this. Well, I guess it worked okay. And then I get underneath and tighten that. I'm not going to tighten it right now. And then I pull up the support that's normally for pieces of wood. And now I can go out and I can go clear out. I've got it to 65 inches. So anyway, that's what I do with that. And then when I want it off, not me, usually I'm pulling it straight out from behind it. Oh, and I gotta lower this. There we go. And then to put them away, I just loosen one side. That's why I make both sides that way, so that I don't have those sticking out and hitting me. So you might not be able to see what I'm doing, but anyway, I'm putting those slides back in and I'm setting that. So that, I think, for right now, that is about all I can think of for the chop saw. And this shroud is pretty light, but boy, did that save me in dust. I have a dust thing above us here, but I don't need it as much with this. It still can get dusty, and of course I have to remember to pull the port out. A lot of times I don't open the gate, and I've got the gate for the table saw open, and I'm sitting there sawing, and well, what the heck? And so that can happen. But dust is a constant issue in the shop, as you all probably know. So if you have any questions, go ahead and post them. Like I said, this thing folds up, this table that it's on, folds up and rolls. I don't know if you could tell, but there's, down here at this end is a wheel. There's a wheel on this side. Oh, and here's one other thing. I'm going to take the camera with me here. Here's one other thing as far as chop saws are concerned. I hope this isn't bouncing around too much. Here's another chop saw that I have. I bought this kind of on sale. 3 or 4 years ago. It's a Ryobi. It uses their battery. I haven't got a battery in it right now, but not much to it. But what I have is I have 2 Freud really, really good blades. One of them is their Thin Kerf Ultimate Plywood. And so I use that for very small trim pieces and so on. It's just perfect. And then the blade that's in there is a non-ferrous blade. And for the most part, I use this saw almost exclusively for doing my T-track and miter track, all the aluminum stuff that I get. I've got it hooked up to just a little Makita vacuum, and it's on this box here. So that believe it or not, that gets a lot of use, and it works great with a thin kerf blade like that at that size. Nice Freud blade, very sharp. So anyway, I don't know if we can look at the end of this again too, and you can see the tires on this. And these legs just fold up underneath, and this right here becomes a handle, and you just move it wherever you want it. So anyway, thank you very much.